Meanwhile, talking about that, there is going to be a weekend lockdown, however. The Uttar Pradesh government has imposed that to curb and try and stop the spread of COVID-19. The lockdown will come into effect on Friday at 8 p.m. and continue till Monday at 7 a.m. And the weekend lockdown will come into force from the 24th of April. That's going to be this weekend. All right, let's take it forward with our guests now. We've got some residents of Lucknow join us, some active voices from there. Also, AASHUTOSH SRIVASTAVA and Sanjay Hegde at the moment join us as well. Let me bring in the first and give the first word to Sanjay Hegde. Mr. Hegde, I found it quite sort of baffling when yesterday, all right, I'm told we've lost that line with Mr. Sanjay Hegde. Let me ask that to you, Ashutosh, then while we wait for that line to be patched again. Ashutosh, we saw yesterday an order come out by the Allahabad High Court. The news was spread, people were preparing for the lockdown, etc. And then suddenly the government says that they're not going to comply. It led to several hours of confusion. People in UP didn't know what was happening, specifically in 5 cities. Need to remind our viewers how bad really the situation is over there. Almost every household has a COVID patient. Sometimes all families come together. Is it rare? Has this happened any other time? Your thoughts on that first.
Allahabad High Court had shown its concern about the administration and
not just concern. There was an order, very clear order. Lockdown in 5 cities.
So there was an order based on the concerns of the High Court that the pandemic was, it is spreading like anything, and what kind of management the government has put in. And accordingly, the state government was, told to shut down these 5 cities as lockdown.
Right.
And obviously, looking at that, the state government immediately approached the Honorable Supreme Court, and the Advocate General, he argued to have the matter listed at the earliest possible, and accordingly today the matter was heard after the board was over, and accordingly the Supreme Court has stayed it at present. However, 2 weeks time has been given to the state government to submit its the affidavit stating as to what kind of management they are providing, because the state government...
Ashutosh, just hold on to that thought. I actually want to bring in voices from the ground right now. We've got Jayant Krishna join us. He's a resident of Lucknow, also the Group CEO for Designated UK India Business Council. Sharat Pradhan will be joining us very shortly, and we have Sanjay Hegde with us as well. Jayant Krishna, first up to you. Just give us a sense of what exactly is happening in Lucknow and a few of the other cities in UP at the moment. As far as I know, it's spread like wildfire. Even tests, it's difficult to get that done. Beds, oxygen, medicine, treatment, doctors. There seems to be nothing in place really which gives you a little bit of hope that they'll manage the situation in the coming days.
Yeah, so Sunil, that's a fact that the situation on the ground is rather bad, much worse than what it was in the wave 1. There is a crisis of doctors, hospitals, tests, oxygen, ICU beds on every front. There's no doubt on that. I feel government is trying to manage, but the kind of efforts one saw in the wave 1, one doesn't experience the same kind of efforts happening this time. I fundamentally believe, that the time...
Explain that a little. What do you mean? What's missing?
See, for example, if you look at the country, the Prime Minister himself or the state and the Chief Minister himself was leading the entire fight against Corona in the wave 1.
Right.
So that those efforts, at least to whatever is available in the public domain, those efforts don't appear to be as intense this time. Leading from the front is something which is required, but this is a huge emergency, and whatever it takes, whatever is to be done. Even if there are some difficult choices to be made between lives and livelihood, I think one has to take those difficult decisions and go on. I fundamentally believe, the time window between October till February, when the cases had receded, that should have been an opportunity to gear up and strengthen our healthcare.
I understand that.
Every country has gone through the wave 2.
But Jayant Krishna, let me ask you this, as a resident of Lucknow, when you saw that order coming from the Allahabad High Court which said lockdown in 5 cities, What was your immediate reaction? Were you relieved that finally that something is going to, they'll have time to sort of build up on medical infrastructure? And what is your response now that the government has overturned it?
So the Allahabad High Court order was tantamount to, they may not have used the word, but was very close to a lockdown kind of a situation, So this is always a balancing act, Sonal, never an easy choice. Yes, if that had been implemented, perhaps, there could have been, little more time window available for virus to spread. The spread could have been reduced, and the state government could have strengthened, the infrastructure and so on and so forth. So in their own wisdom, they have decided not to do it, but instead of that, go ahead with their own curbs, including night curfews, including weekend curfews. So let's see what's the impact of that. But fundamentally, I think it's a crisis, unprecedented. Never ever, every day I hear stories of...
I think the takeaway from what you're saying right now is also that you're not seeing the government lead from the front here. Sharat Pradhan, am I to understand at this point that during the second wave, we are not seeing the government perhaps take it as seriously? As somebody who's a journalist there, as somebody who's a resident of Lucknow, what can you share with us? I mean, I would have loved to get a live update on what's happening in Lucknow right now, but guess what? Our correspondent is down with COVID as well.
No, I understand, yes. Sonal, I don't believe in wishy-washy stuff, nor do I believe in sugar-coated comments, guarded comments. I believe in hitting the nail on the head.
Love that.
And the situation today has reached this pass simply because the government was busy patting its own back all along. After the first wave was over, they thought they had done a wonderful job and they went to town, loaded with the newspapers flowing with advertisements, praising themselves on how wonderful they had done, and a lot of misleading stuff was created, falsehood was created. They carried an advertorial in the Time magazine claiming that UP had done wonderful work, and it was an advertorial, paid news. Likewise, there were some reports floated in the name of Johns Hopkins University, in the name of Harvard University that they praised.
But talk about what's failing. What's failing on the ground right now?
The ground situation is awful. People are dying on the streets. People are dying untreated because the Chief Minister believes in making tall announcements, doing a lot of lip service, and believing probably that what he has once announced has actually done on ground, which is not the case. Now for instance, every day he issues some diktat from his hospital bed that I've converted the medical college into a full-fledged COVID hospital. Balrampur Hospital converted into COVID hospital. But on the ground reality today, I spoke to senior officers looking up that. They said, well, the announcements are made, but on ground, we can't convert it overnight. We are still in the process. Now this announcement is now it's 4 or 5 days, and the beds in the medical zone, the trouble is that neither the non-COVID patients are getting treated there because the hospital has been declared as a totally dedicated COVID hospital, nor the COVID patients have any bed or facilities. The Chief Minister's announcement that anybody selling oxygen in black will be put behind bars under NSA. Let them say how many people have they put, because oxygen continues to be sold in the black market blatantly. Oxygen concentrator which was available 5 days back for 40,000 rupees is selling for 1 lakh rupees today. And cylinders are going for 10,000 rupees. Nobody is bothered.
Sanjay Hegde, what's really unprecedented here is this time around the government did not implement a lockdown. In fact, they're resisting it at the moment. But look at people on the ground. People in Lucknow, Hazratganj, the most iconic market there, they've gone into a self-imposed lockdown. They say, well, we can't handle this anymore. All our family members, our staff is down as well. And at a time when public is giving them, saying something, sending out a hard message, how is it that the government is not understanding this right now? Sanjay,
the government is not even...
See, the problem is that the people who are on the ground know where the shoe bites. This is a public health emergency which lacks leadership. The high courts in India, whether it's the Allahabad High Court or the Telangana High Court or to some extent the Bombay High Court, have been nudging the state governments. The Allahabad High Court went ahead and said that at least in these 5 cities, bring a near lockdown. Why was this judicial overreach, which is the favorite executive phrase, or not, is another thing. The High Court should not have been confronted with a situation where the executive has so spectacularly failed on the ground. Therefore, the High Court, as the repository of the constitutional guarantee of the right of life in this country, had to do something.
Right.
Unfortunately, when it has come to the Supreme Court, in its wisdom has said, okay, let's stay it for the time being and then look at it later. This is not an ordinary case.
And time is what people don't have right now.
Has mixed up its messaging. It was the Supreme Court which first said that Lord Jagannath will not forgive us if we allow the Rath Yatra. A few days later, the politicians changed their mind. The Supreme Court also changed its mind. This is a moment for scientific temper. This is not a moment for people to sit on their hands and say that nothing can be done. This lack of leadership which was spoken about seems essentially to be that the administration of the day seems to think that nothing more can be done. We will pick up the broken pieces when the storm is over. That is not leadership in a crisis.
All right, gentlemen, we'll have to leave it there for the moment. Thank you so much for your thoughts over there. Wise words there by Sanjay Hegde as well. A quick break. When we come back, we'll bring you the latest from Ahmedabad.